And one of the common comments that I get from residents, they'll call me up and say, we had a 100-year flood and I didn't get wet. Why is that? And sometimes my answer is that there was a 100-year flood somewhere. There might not have been a 100-year flood where you live. Every flood is different. Every flood has areas that the flooding might exceed what you expect or might not be what you expect. Streams get blocked and meander, get blocked by culverts, get blocked by bridges, and materials that get caught in those culverts and bridges. So every flood is different, but I recall one call I got, and I think it was a woman in Dutchess County, and she said, well, we had a 100-year flood for Irene. And I said, well, Dutchess County had a lot of water, but Dutchess County didn't have a 100-year flood. There were areas in the Catskills that did, but every watershed behaves differently, and the precipitation is different in different locations. But within the special flood hazard area, it's a statistical analysis. It's the idea that within this area, you have a 1% or greater chance of flooding every single year. That 1% per year translates to 26% over 30 years, which is why insurance companies won't insure it on their own without federal involvement. Think about taking on insurance for something that you're almost 1 in 4 chances of filing a claim within a 30-year period. So the special flood hazard area, the flood that occurs there, that fills the special flood hazard area, is known as the base flood. But people also don't really fathom is that the entire mapped floodplain, the entire special flood hazard area, is not 1% per year. The edge of it is. The deeper you go into that floodplain, the greater the probability of flooding is every year. So it might be 2% per year, it might be 10% per year. So the whole floodplain doesn't behave the same. Here's an example of your new flood map. I tried to choose a piece of a panel that shows a few different things, and this shows areas in the town of Poughkeepsie, the town of Wappinger, and the village of Wappingers Falls on the panel. Here's the Dutchess County Airport, so you can place where that is. So these blue shaded areas, that represents that special flood hazard area. But there's something else in here. There's, within the blue shaded area, there's a diagonal white stripe designation. What that represents is the regulatory floodway. The floodway is a part of the floodplain. It's a narrower part of the floodplain. And those are the areas that need to be kept free of new development in order to pass that base flood, that 1% flood, without cumulatively increasing the height of that flood. It's also the most dangerous area. It's the area that tends to have the most rapidly moving floodwaters. So for development standards, if somebody wants to build a house over here, they're not prohibited from doing that, but they need to meet elevation standards. If somebody wants to do something over here in the floodway, they're required by state building code, they're required by FEMA regulations, they're required by your local law to do an engineering analysis, and that engineering analysis must conclude that that encroachment into the floodway is not going to increase that base flood elevation, that 1% chance flood elevation, by any measurable amount. And is the gentleman in the room that I talked to about that this morning? Okay.